The purpose of this program is to emphasize and increase awareness of the beauty, rarity, and vulnerability of the wildflowers of New York State.
Seeing the woods early in the spring and seeing these trillium that just weren't no sign of them 3-4 weeks ago, it was just brown, winter, dead, and now it's alive with the blossoms. And it reminds me of what we used to call, back where I grew up, where I was born on the farm, Trillium Mountain. And it was a great high mound of woods. It was just filled with trillium all through it, just like this is right here. They're beautiful. And they come early in the spring. The leaves are just starting on the trees, but the trillium are here, and how they can pop up out of almost nowhere, it seems like. Just fantastic.
Walking with wildflowers, making the connection. Mark and I met many years ago, sharing each other's stories of our childhoods. Mark was in search of trillium plants, and I had a nursery where we grew them. Our friendship has grown and supported us through the challenges of our quest to find colonies of wildflowers and preserve them for future generations of friends.
One of the wonderful stories I have about this area is several years ago I was working out in the barn. Our barns are very close to the road, on Holly Road in Red Creek, and this Dodge Reliant K car came by and drove by, and then it drove by again and drove back and forth. And finally I got out and asked them if they needed some help, and there was about a 70-year-old couple in the front, and they said, well, Mom wants to see the old place. You know, Mom wants to check the place out. And so they brought her up, and her name was Janet Hawley. She was born in our farmhouse back about 90 years ago. Actually more than that, because now this was probably about 8-10 years ago, and she was living in North Carolina and had come up for some family event, and it was wonderful to meet her. She gave us a great tour. She told us everything about the house, about the trees and how big they were then. And I asked her about this spot. I said, you know, did you ever go down in the woods? And she said, oh, you mean down to the cathedral? And I said, oh, the cathedral. She said, yes, where all those beautiful white flowers are. And I said, the trillium. And she said, well, if that's what you call them. And she was born here and was raised in this area as a young girl, and used to come down here and play, and loved this particular spot, and never knew the name of these wildflowers, but instinctively knew to come down here every spring and see these. And I gave her a picture, a large picture of the album cover of this beautiful group of trilliums from my work that I had done, and my CD cover, and also gave her a copy of the CD, which she was very, very happy about. And but right away when she saw the picture and all the trillium, it brought back wonderful memories for her, and she actually got a little teary looking at that, and just the kind of memories that we hope that we'll be making with our kids, and that we hope that generations that follow us will actually take as much time to get out in nature and to be in nature, because of the importance of what nature brings us and how important it is in all of our lives. I know people get so wrapped up in everyday work, and we have now so many things that keep our time so pressed that we very rarely take the time to get out and get in the woods and enjoy the wildflowers. But if you can, it's amazing what a wonderful thing it is, and how great it can be, not just for you, but for your family, for your kids, and to start a tradition where every year the kids will start asking you, how are those flowers coming? Can we get down in the woods? Can we go down and check that spot out? Because we want to see how they're coming this year, how big they're going to be this year. So it's just a great thing. So enjoy nature and enjoy the trillium.
The legacy of our childhood is held in our hearts and lives on as we tell our stories. The stories connect the generations and unite our spirits as they are passed down. So too the tales of Trillium are passed along, They connect us to each other and to the woodland where they grow.
Oh, it's the first week in May, and we're out just for a walk today and looking at the wildflowers, the trillium and all the other flowers, and it just brought back some old memories about when my father was alive, and we used to always go out and look for wildflowers in the spring, and he was just a factory worker, but every spring he brought us out and showed us the beauties of spring, and it was very enjoyable.
Connecting with nature gives us peace and grounds us in a way that smooths the road as we navigate through our highly technified and disconnected lives, telling our stories to our children as they form the rough drafts of their own, and walking through the woods as the trillium form future generations ensures that our ever intertwining legacies pass to the future and continue to bloom.
But my mother was the wildflower expert, and I think what started it was she would in the spring come down and hike up to the top of the mountain where the spring was for our water supply, and she'd have to go up there and clean it out. There was boards across it, but she'd get the leaves from the winter off of the boards, clean it up, put the boards back, and then hike back down to the house. And the first time we turned the faucet on in the kitchen, we'd often get little salamanders down the pipe because they get washed down there. So, you know, we always had a joke about who was going to take the first glass of water, but it was exciting. It was the best water in the world. It was cold, clear, wonderful water. But the hike up to the top of the mountain was what helped my mom find a lot of the great wildflowers. There was a gully that she had to go through. It was very similar to this, except higher and steeper, a little more rocky than this is right here. And she found wild lady slippers in that gully. And she knew, even back then, 45, 50 years ago, that these were very special plants, special flowers. And she didn't even tell us kids where these lady slippers were. We knew that they were in some kind of a gully. But now that I'm in horticulture, I understand part of the thing about lady slippers is they like really good drainage, but they like some even moisture. And that gully where they were growing was perfect for them because the snow would melt and the water would run down the edge of the gully into the creek, just like this creek. And there was rocks. They'd grow in between the rocks, so it was perfect drainage, good moisture in the spring when they needed it. And so that was her very, very special spot on the whole property. But she knew where every single wildflower was. Trillium, Indian pipe, jack-in-the-pulpits. She'd let us see some of them, but the lady slippers, we never knew where that exact spot was. Maybe we can go back and find it sometime.
The emperor came down to the water's edge. He said, I don't know where I'm bound. Well, I got emeralds and rubies sewn into my gown, but I am sadder than the diamonds in my crown. So will you lay me down in a fiddler's cloud and float me out to sea? Let my aching head be still, let me surrender to your will. Float me out and deliver me